right. And we're live. All right. I got John Nelson on here. Um, as we talked before, I kind of want you to go into your origin story. Like I was telling you before, it's called Pain to Power Podcast. So kind of take us through your hero's journey. How, like, what was your original pain point? What got you into this? And then, like, how did you turn that into power?
Sure. Well, first, I appreciate you inviting me on, man. Thanks a lot. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. As far as I like the hero journey, man, I like that caption. Like I might steal that from you, or,
Okay.
or maybe borrow
Just
something
just
from it.
quote me once or twice, and you're good.
I
Then it's
like
yours.
that, man. All right. So how I got started. All right. Well, it depends on how much time we got. Let's go back. I guess we'll go back to the beginning here. And if I talk too much, then just tell me to stop. So, I grew up an athlete, played multiple sports. I was always doing something. But basically, right around probably sixth grade or stuff, I started to develop some nagging back pain. And it never really could get resolved. And both of my parents were very well respected in the medical profession here. So I had access to basically the best doctors and orthos and others around the Memphis area. And it was always just kind of pushed to the side, like, hey, you have a weak core. Well,
Love that one.
even at a young age, like that just didn't resonate with me. I was like, how could I have a weak core when I play multiple sports year round? It wasn't the greatest training, but I trained in my garage. We had high school training, and so it just never really resonated. So I think that's kind of where the seed originally was planted at probably a pretty young age, about 8th, 9th, 10th grade, somewhere right around there. As to this just doesn't sound right to me, but I went along with it. So fast forward to senior year of high school, and I'm getting a walk-on tryout at Ouachita Baptist University to play basketball. I took a fast break down to the left side. I planted my foot. I turned to pass the ball at the top of the key and snapped. My back just instantly went out, and I felt something break. I thought I had broken. I thought my spine had fractured. Like I lost all feeling in my legs. It was a mess. So come to find out, after that whole debacle, I had a tumor growing on my spine. It was actually growing on my L2 transverse process, and nobody. Not that the diagnostics had ever tried to look to see if I had a tumor, but nobody ever even went that, like nobody went that far. So the tumor broke off the transverse process and it took part of my vertebrae with it. And so I had to go have surgery. The neurologist, they did a great job, obviously. That took away an immense amount of pain. But then as I was going through all these regular checkups, because it was a tumor, I had to go like every 3 months and then 6 months and then 12 and et cetera, came the degenerative disc disease. And so like, I think I was diagnosed with degenerative disc disease when I was like 17 or 18 and disc bulges and all that good stuff. And so I still had some chronic pain, but it wasn't nearly what it was prior to the tumor. Well, that was kind of what led me into starting personal training. After I finished playing basketball, I only played a year. I just said, this is it. I'm good. I'm done. I'm coming back to Memphis to get my education. I started really getting into training hard because I needed something to fill my time. And then that's kind of when the back thing kind of blended in. So I got to the point where I just kind of got tired of trying all these other modalities. And I mean, I know these people tried to help me, but nothing was working. So I just said, screw it. I'm going to try and figure it out on my own. And, I made a little progress, a little bit, but that's how I got into training. So I got a personal training certification and I was like, I'm going to see if I can get into this field while I'm in college. I enjoy it. I wanted more science behind what I was trying to do with my back and my core. And that's what started the training journey. So I started training when I was a sophomore in college at a local gym. And boy, I was bad, man. I was terrible. I was your standard big box trainer.
Somewhere, right?
Oh gosh, looking back, man, it was atrocious. I feel bad for the people I worked with. But let's see. So I started training as a sophomore in college, and my initial education in college was actually sport management, and my master's was actually in sport marketing. But I continued training all through college, even in graduate school, and I had kind of developed a niche as I was kind of the guy that people came to if they had pain or if they had just finished with PT or chiro or something like that, and they were wanting to get
Mhm.
into personal training.
Yeah.
I kind of just fell into that. And it kind of became a passion to me. And it kind of lit that, that light bulb went off in my head of like, from that seed that was planted back in 6th grade or so, it was like, why are these people still hurting if they've gone through all these other, things with these other practitioners? Like, what is going on? And so that was always in the back of my mind. As I was finishing up graduate school, I was really debating on whether or not to continue to train or follow my sport marketing career, because my sport marketing career had taken off. I mean, I was a very coveted intern coming out of graduate school. I mean, I had job
Mm.
offers from everybody. And I loved it. I loved sport marketing. I mean, I loved being in sports. And right before we were getting ready to go, I was graduating. A friend of mine who actually trained me back when I was prepping for college basketball, he goes, "Look, man," he goes, "you need to come to Minnesota with me before you hang up your training cleats. Like, if you're going to go to sport marketing, obviously I was going to have to stop training. I was going to move to a different city. He said, you got to come to Minnesota with me and you got to meet these people." And that guy was Elliot Young, and that guy's been on my show.
Mhm.
I owe Elliot a lot. Well, he took me to
Good
Dr.
episode, by
J's
the way.
office,
Yeah.
Dr. John Pietola, for those of you who don't know who that is. And thus started the journey. Um, Watching Dr. J execute what he did, watching the success that he had with his patients, I was blown away. I said, okay, like, this is what God wants me to do. So I came back to Memphis. I literally packed my bags and went right back up to Minnesota to go train under him. Came back to Memphis and started my business. And that's kind of how the whole thing got started. And that was about 14 years ago now.
It's really cool to see, because I've talked to enough people and I've got to train, different doctors and things like that. It's always cool to hear the story, and then like later that shows up and how like the skills are performed, right? So you eventually found Dr. J. I always feel like you always have that, like that original like voodoo mentor, right?
Yeah, oh
Mine
yeah.
was Dan when I went to
Yeah.
a seminar. He's just
Yeah.
like, he's like just spinning people in the chair and the shoulder pains going away. I'm like,
Yeah.
what the hell is this?
Yeah.
You know?
And I credit Dan, because Dan came right after Dr. J
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah.
If you heard my story before. And I credit Dan with being able to help me kind of bridge that gap a lot more with training and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, I mean, because Dan was so far, because I
He
remember,
finds everything before everyone else
yeah,
does.
he does.
Yeah,
Because I remember
100%.
him and I were at the very first track and football consortium,
Yep.
the
That's
very
where I met
first
him. Yep.
one. And so you were there too.
I
That
might have
very,
been, not the
yeah.
first one,
Okay.
maybe
So I was
like
at the
the
very
fourth or
first
fifth
one.
one, maybe like in 2017.
Yeah, I was at the very first one that had Dan, it had Chris Corfus, it had Tony, it
Yeah.
had and Joel Smith was
Yeah.
there. And yeah, I remember just coming up to Dan and be like, "Hey, what's up, man?" Because I had just seen him like a couple weeks ago in
Right.
Birmingham.
Hmm.
And yeah, he was always just ahead of the curve for sure.
And with some of these modalities, like, and I think it definitely leaves like a, what do you think, it's like a curiosity or a hunger. Once you find a little bit, it opens up another rabbit hole, because that's where, Dan's like, hey, go check out this, check out Carrick, check out, I know you had Jack Cruz on, check out these guys, and like he just gave me this long list.
Hmm.
um do you find yourself still, I mean, I know you got the podcast, so you're just interviewing these people now, but you still find yourself going down those rabbit holes and continuing with your education?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Hmm.
I think in any field,
Yeah.
you have to continue. And once you stop learning, you basically stop growing. So
Right.
yeah, now
100%.
I think in this field there are too many people that study too much and don't apply ever.
Yeah. Right.
But it's like the fitness and the strength and conditioning fields has almost become like philosophy to a degree if you jump on social media.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Dan led me down that path to a bunch of different resources, and so did Dr. J as well. And I owe Dr. J a lot. I mean, he forced me to learn.
Hmm.
Because I remember going up there and I had my NASM. I think I was studying for the CES at that point.
Okay.
I had my NASM book, and like he came up to the hotel room because he was friends with Elliot. Elliot had known them for a long time, and he just like picked the book up. He's like, "This is garbage." Just I'm like, "Oh shoot."
Toss it out the
I was
window.
like, "Okay, this guy knows his stuff," and I thought I was hot, hot stuff coming up there. I was like, "Man, I'm a trainer. I know what I'm doing." And then I
Mm.
saw him like, "Yeah, I don't know anything." Um, so,
What
but
do you think that's that balance of learning and application? I definitely see people there, and this would be a good guidance for like younger people starting out, or even just they're currently in the field as a practitioner. What's that balance of learning and application? Like, because what I see, and you probably could speak on this real well, is like it's one or the other. Like some people are just always just working, getting through, and just doing whatever they're doing. They're stuck with a current skill set or knowledge. But then you also said there's the vice versa, where people learn, 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 never apply.
mhm,
Like it would be almost like that researcher, right? They're just stuck up here, and there's
yeah,
no like action with it.
boy, that's a really good question. Um, I don't know if I have an answer as far as ratio. I think
Mhm.
the way that I see it is, I think it depends on the type of learner and processor somebody is. And again,
Yeah.
that's something that Dr. J taught me was
Mhm.
when I went up there, I was so overwhelmed with trying to understand and learn everything, but it
Mhm.
was him that made me understand. He figured me out before I finished my training there. He already knew the type of way that I process information. And for
Mhm.
me, I'm a very, very kinesthetic learner. So all
Yeah.
you have to do is look at me and you can see I talk with my hands a lot. I'm
Mhm.
all over the place. I'm
Mhm.
ADD. And so for me, I have to apply it.
Yeah.
I am not, and I always did terrible in school. I mean, I'd
Mhm.
say I did terrible in school, but I was not a very good student until I got to college. And I learned that I'm a kinesthetic guy. And so if I'm in class, I got to write everything down
Right.
or I got to have a recording. I could never comprehend what somebody like a professor or somebody was trying to teach me. Like I can't listen to it. I can't see it. I'm purely kinesthetic. So I think it really depends. Like if you're somebody like me, then I think you need to take little chunks of information at a time and apply it. Because with kinesthetic learners, once you implement it and learn it, you basically don't, it's almost like you don't forget it.
Yeah.
Like I can remember things that I should have forgotten because it's been 14 years now, but I can still do them. Like whether it's, a technique like we were talking about off air that I don't
Mhm.
use as much anymore. I can still fire it out. I don't have to review it anymore. But as far as getting new information, it takes me longer to learn that and process it versus a visual person. They may be able to read it or go to a conference and see the PowerPoint and boom, be able to apply it instantly. I've got to practice it over and over and over. And it comes across as being a slow learner, you know?
Well,
So,
I would probably say with you is it's probably what made you good as an athlete too, and probably why you've stuck with training athletes is because you understand that, right?
yeah,
And
I
you're able to
just,
apply it
you
with
can
them.
feel it. And I think all good
Mhm.
coaches have that quality a little bit, like you have to be able to feel what the client or the person is experiencing. You have to know that, you know? And so, yeah, I think that's honestly kind of what got me into training because I liked that feeling of being on the court and I needed something to fill that void like we all do. And I
Yeah.
knew just what it felt like to have my body working the right way. And like you kind of become addicted to it.
Right.
You
Yeah,
know?
and that's why there's always like that. You got to put your hands on people, even if it's not like you're not practicing like massage or anything like that,
Right.
but just putting your hands on a shoulder, like, hey, feel this, do this. And that's why like I've had some people like, well, why don't you do more online stuff? And I'm like, it's not the same. It doesn't
No.
have that same like, you know, connection in person.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I agree. And that's why I don't do much online work either. I will with some people that have been with me for a long time. But in general, I don't. I actually just had a college athlete reach out today or the other day and be
Mhm.
like, "Can you do online?" I'm like, "I can't, man. I'm sorry. I need to see you. I need to be able to see how your body moves and
Yeah.
feel it and help you fix it so I can do right by you.
Right.
Because if I
Right.
can't kind of put my hands on you, I'm not gonna be able to do right by you. And I think that goes just with a lot of stuff like muscle testing, for example. I
Yeah.
mean, I do a lot of muscle testing with everything I've done, and Am I the best at it? No, probably not, but
Yeah.
it came pretty easy to me
Yeah.
versus other people. It's much harder for them, and that's probably because they're a different learner.
Yeah, and I've always been curious about it, and I have my own like thought process, but that would be good to go into.
Yeah.
Is the people who are naturally geared toward muscle testing, which is not, it's a very few select people. But the people that have tried to learn it, I've had clients like they've done like a course or a seminar with somebody, and like I just couldn't figure it out. What do you think? Like people, like what type of person, or why do you feel like you were able to pick it up real well and be able to implement it with people? Do you think it's like your athletic background? That's kind of my guess. Is I was always very active, three sport athlete in high school, college football player. Just always lifting, always working out, just staying active. I kind of think like just very in tune to my body and others.
hmm Yeah, I definitely think that's part of it. I definitely think just learning to be tuned into your body, as a former athlete,
Hmm.
for sure. I think that plays a big role in it. But again, I think I'm just going to go back to what I said earlier. I really do think a lot of it has to do with how you learn. And
Hmm.
I'm one of those people that I feel everything. Like,
Hmm.
is voodoo or, hippie as that may sound, like I'm just one of those people that like I feel energy. When you walk into a room and like you just
Hmm.
feel, I can just feel that when people come in.
Yeah.
I can see that, I can feel it. And that's how I learned how to test, was just I could feel it. And
Yeah.
you're able to direct your own thoughts and emotions and control those. Because if you sit there and you're like, yeah, this is going to be weak, well, it's going to be weak. Like,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
so you've got to learn to
Your
be
intention
subject.
is,
Right.
yeah,
Exactly. So you've got to
it's
learn to
huge. Yeah. It's
manage,
really huge.
your intentions
Hmm.
and feel what that other person feels and not interfere with that. And so I think that's what helped me become a good muscle testing practitioner, and why it became such a huge part of what I do, because
Yeah.
I could just feel it. And it goes back to that kinesthetic thing, man. You know?
And you go into that, we can kind of talk about some of the modalities and things that you're implementing with muscle testing and the other ones. Are you kind of doing a lot of that stuff on the fly as you're seeing things? That's
Yeah.
that's kind of how I've done it over the years.
Yeah,
Kind of talk to your
absolutely.
experience with it and some of the tools and techniques you're using.
Yeah, sure. So I think with my business, it kind of varies based on what somebody's coming in for.
Hmm.
So like if it's an athlete they're coming in for like an assessment or something, I'm probably not going through like, reflexive based testing. I'm kind of more using a dynamometer and charting force output, looking for the, how strong that muscle is rather than
Hmm.
responses. But if it's somebody coming in for like a wellness scenario, I'm probably going the other route. I'm probably looking for, okay, is that communication? Is that network? Is that working the right way?
Hmm.
So I guess in some respect, I'm doing it with everybody, regardless of what they're coming in for. But
Yeah.
with athletes, yeah, I do that a lot. I will, if I'm working with somebody and there's something that I see or something that I feel is going on, then yeah, we'll pull them aside. I'll check them real quick and say, hey, look, is it, boom, boom, boom. All right, let's go back and fix that. Like I remember I had a kid. We were doing like a specific, like a GOTA type of sled push, and he was
Hmm.
really, really struggling to get his foot and his ankle to do what we wanted him to do. And I mean, the kid just could not get it. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, it's like, okay, well, if they can't do something, then rather than just tell them, hey, go practice it,
Hmm.
why don't we dig deeper? And so, yeah, we put him on the table, checked him, and sure enough, like everything from the knee down was just shut off.
Yeah.
Turn it back on, boom, he's actually able to execute it. So, yes, absolutely. I definitely do it on the fly. I think it can be very beneficial.
And that's a good point too, is and sometimes just I probably most people, they just you don't know what you don't know, but like dig into that a little bit of, you know because I see this a lot. People are like, you're trying to teach them a technique, like do this. You're trying to consciously change the subconscious, right? And you're trying to change this process. Like you could relate this. Dan said, like, if somebody's sprinting and they're striking with the heel, well, you tell them to strike the toe, they might be able to compensate around it, but that's not the reason they're doing it. You know what I mean? So,
Mhm.
like, can you kind of dig into some of those like subconscious processes that are getting in the way of people being able to move properly and just do it on the fly? Because if you have a good athlete, they can just, you show it and they're able to do it right now. What's
That's a good question, too. So subconscious reasons why somebody, see, this goes back to the processing. Like you tell me
Mhm.
something and it goes in one ear and out the other.
Yeah.
So, okay, so subconscious reasons why somebody struggles to do something,
Right.
right?
Let's keep it in movement. Yeah, we'll keep it in the
Yeah,
movement realm.
I think ingrained patterns
Mhm.
are a big one, especially for kids that have started doing stuff improperly at a young age. I think that's a one that we all kind of know.
Mhm.
I think fear plays a big role.
Mm.
I feel like that's something that I've seen a lot in the last, I don't know, 7, 8 years.
Mhm.
I think, and it makes sense in my mind when you look at how these kids have been raised. Everything is centered around fear and not messing up.
Mm. Mhm.
In school, these kids are not allowed to do anything without being told you have to do A, B, C, D. And so, like, there is no intuition to try to figure out how to do stuff. They're not allowed to go mess up and learn, which is
Yeah.
failure is a critical part of neural learning. You have to fail if you're ever going to learn something, right? That's how the cerebellum works. That's how your brain works. You have to fail. And so I think when it comes to like athletes and movement, especially when they have just been guided to do everything by textbook based on what the teachers or parents or coaches want, and they've never had the opportunity to go out and figure it out on their own, they're afraid to fail. And I think that
Mhm.
fear naturally is going to inhibit their ability to move because the nervous system is going to be afraid. And as we all know, what happens, like, your nervous system is your body's only job is to survive. It doesn't care. It doesn't care about you running or pushing that side. It just wants you to survive. So if it's constantly in this fear state, it's not going to let you,
Mhm.
expound upon your movement or try new things or reach max velocity or whatever the case may be.
Mhm.
So I think fear plays a big role. I really
Mhm.
do. Like, watch a kid try to do like an altitude drop.
Mm. Yeah.
Like, you can see it in their eyes. You can
And for
feel
people
it.
who don't know, John, what's an altitude drop?
Okay, so just like jumping off a box
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
sticking yourself on the landing, right? Not trying to jump on a box, guys. We're trying to jump on. That's an altitude drop.
Mhm.
Other versions are like depth drops and drop
Yeah.
jumps and all kinds of stuff. But like, you can see it in a person's eyes. It's almost like it's that early high school age or
Mhm.
somebody who's older, maybe my age or a little bit older, where they're afraid they're going to hurt themselves.
Mhm.
You can see they won't let themselves go. They're just paralyzed by it. I don't know. What do you see? Do you see that response with people?
Well, adults, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
And why
why
is that? Because
I've
they
had to
know
mod
that they can
it,
hurt themselves.
right. And I think the brakes are on for a reason for those situations. You haven't done anything athletic in like 20 years.
Sure, if you're 70
We're not
years
gonna
old, you
jump,
probably don't want to start doing an altitude drop,
right?
right?
We're not
Yeah,
gonna
of course.
start with a 30-inch box
Right,
drop right off
right.
the gate. Yeah, and that's why I think, things like isometrics are key, which we can definitely talk about. That's a way to
Sure.
kind of desensitize that fear response. But I got a good question for you. Like, how are you getting them to fail, or maybe you just view a point of like how you get them over that failure? You're seeing that as a big limiter for people. What are some things that you're implementing to either facilitate that process to help them, work through it, or, are you doing anything with their mindset, shifting them in any way?
Mhm.
Yeah, just have you go into that.
Honestly, probably a lot of what I just said is I'll
Mhm.
probably walk them through that process right there, especially the
Mhm.
kids, and get them to open their mind because they don't know what they don't know yet,
Mhm.
and I think as coaches, we we have a little bit of a unique perspective on this because especially like in our realm. So if they're coming to your gym or my gym, I think being in a school is a little bit different because in a
Mhm.
school you're almost looked as like a teacher, but even teachers, have a little bit different role than parents do. Like there's a little bit different level of trust there for some reason.
Mhm.
They're going to listen to you more often, right?
Yeah.
And so like I'll break that down right there. I'll tell them like, look, you're afraid, you're scared. Here's why,
Mhm.
ABC, because you've grown up doing this, you've been told to do this, you don't know
Mhm.
how to do it on your own. So like just go. But then what I also tell kids is like, especially the athlete side of stuff, is like the gym is a place to fail. Like I want you to fail here,
Mhm.
and I make it kind of a joking thing, a lot of times, but it's like you're not gonna leave here feeling good. Now, again, I kind of joke with that,
Right, right.
but that's the point. What I'm trying to get them to understand was like, if you can't push your body in the gym to failure, then you will never know what it's capable of doing out there on the field. And failure does not mean doing as many burpees and box jumps as you can before you throw up. That's not
Mhm.
failure.
Mhm.
Failure is trying to hold an isometric, lunge when your leg is quivering uncontrollably and your emotions start to take over.
Mhm.
And then you start questioning everything. And
Yeah.
then you collapse and you start crying on the ground. That's failure. That's confronting your fears. And so that's what I do with these kids. And so a lot of times I see them like an altitude drop, for example, where I just can't get them to, they're just not landing it, or they're afraid to kind of push a little bit, and like I tell them to step off the box, they're basically getting their foot, like they're going half the distance from the box to
Yeah.
the ground, or like, they're like touching their toe in water. Then yeah, what you said, I'll actually drop them back into an isometric, and I'll be
Yeah.
like, look, we're going to hold this, and I don't care about programming. I'm not interested. The programming side doesn't matter to me. It's
Yeah.
more, I want them to learn about their body. So yeah, it's like, we're going to hold this for 3 minutes and just go. Trust me. If something breaks, I can fix it, but nothing's going to break. You're going to be fine.
Right. Right.
You know, getting them to confront that personally head on. That's exactly how I do it.
And I think in when we were talking, I definitely had a lot of questions geared towards, skill set, knowledge, application. But, talking about some of this, and, some things come to mind and I think this gets out of touch, especially in the SNC world, and also sports performance, stuff like that, is like caring about the person, right? Like, I think part of that fear response is like, I coached the football team this year, and just putting like your arm around the kid and be like, hey, it's okay. Like, you got this. And that like support.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, how have you found, that side of things? Because I'm sure you see that, and especially running a podcast, right? I feel like society right now is so like left brain, achievement, knowledge, go, go, go. Like, they kind of forget like the right side, like the emotional intelligence, caring for somebody. Like, like Jay, I know you have a big Jay Schroeder influence. It's like that pipes, right?
Yeah.
It's so focused on just the
I think he told
physical.
me on our podcast that I suck. I'm pretty sure he said that.
Yeah, maybe just a small section, right?
Yeah. Um, yeah. What was the question again?
I would say just like kind of, build upon like that right side of the brain, like, like that intellectual, psychological, emotional, spiritual side of things, like how you're incorporating that with others, and like, I guess how it gets kind of lost
Yeah.
nowadays with people.
Yeah. Well, I apologize to your audience for the constant sniffling and sinus issues. It
It's
went
fun to
from
be
like
here.
-7 to 70 in 5, 6, 7 days here. So
Yeah.
it's like 70 last week. It was -7. So I'm struggling.
Yeah. We're going
Um,
through that today too.
Jeez. So, well, I think it's a very fine line to walk, and I think we're in a very unique time in society and in culture. Um, Culture's shifting, whether people want to believe that or not. Culture's shifting, and the pendulum is swinging back. And whereas years and years ago, for the last probably 8, 10 years, it has been about being humble, but people make humble being like not winning. And like,
Mhm.
it's okay to, it's okay to just not try to accomplish anything and just go with your emotions and go drive a van and drive the world, right?
Mhm.
That type of vibe. Well,
Mhm.
things are coming back into, and everybody got 20th, place trophies, right?
Right.
Well, things
Right.
are swinging back now into a culture of winning, and winning is going to become cool again.
Mhm.
People are going to want to win. In the days of, we're seeing it happen in our government, whether people like it or not. I don't really care. It's happening. Things are being based on merit, which
Mhm.
is they should be merit, right? So with these kids, I think we're in a very unique situation at this specific point in time because we are on that front line, especially our generation right now.
Mhm.
We're on that front line of helping these kids get back to a winning mentality. So it's like trying to identify the kids that are coddled
Mhm.
and are afraid, the kids that are afraid because whatever, maybe I don't want to say abuse isn't the wrong word, but
Mhm.
they've had unsupported coaches or unsupportive parents,
Mhm.
you know, and that's why they're afraid. And as
Yeah.
a coach, it just requires a lot out of us to get to know them.
Right.
Right. So I kind of get them off the subject of training. We talk about all kinds of crazy stuff in our gym. We talk about
Yeah.
pyramids and aliens and all
I
kinds
love
of
it.
stuff,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Those are fun rabbit holes to go down. You know, And that way you can kind of get a sense to understand kind of where they're coming from, who their influences are, and why they have these certain emotions, and then try to
Mhm.
reach them from there. And so, yeah, there will be some kids that, they need you to put their arm around them and tell them it's going to be okay because they don't
Mhm.
know anything else other than a coach that has just berated them. But
Right.
then there's the other kids that are, they need to, they're coddled, especially
Mhm.
if they come from a wealthy family. Like, you know, it's like, no, you got to learn how to get out of get out and take matters into your own hands. Mommy
Yeah.
and daddy aren't going to fix things for you.
Right.
So it takes a lot out of the coach to try to figure that out. But I think that is in and of itself a quality of a very good coach. Can you relate to your athletes? Can you meet them where they are? And can we reach everybody? No.
Mhm.
No, I can think right now. I've got a couple kids that have been with me now for 6, 7, 8 months, and I just can't connect with them.
Yeah.
It just is what it is. But we got to make the effort to.
Yeah. And I think you're going to find, like you're always going to gravitate towards certain kids or certain people. And I had a good friend. He always said, "People are in your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime." Right.
Yeah.
And the one big thing I've noticed is is kind of like you're saying that I want you to go in that because there was one of the podcasts where you kind of went on a tangent of it becoming more like merit based
Yeah.
and being like a little more focused on that, and especially like you said it best, there was like a 20th place trophy, and now we're starting to shift of like winning and things like that, but more like I would probably just say, do you think it's coming to like we're gonna shift from completely 20th to everything's first place, or you think there's kind of like a balance between the two at this point?
Well, I definitely don't think there's a balance yet. I think
Mhm.
people are still in the mindset of everybody's a winner
Mhm.
and everybody's not a winner. I'm sorry.
Mhm.
Not everybody's a winner. And it's important that we distinguish that because then you get into the situations of like what we're seeing right now where people are wondering why they have to send their boss an email explaining what it is that they did for work.
Yeah.
When in reality that all of us working class people have to do that. But, um, I do think it's changing, and I think
Mhm.
as coaches, if we can understand that and we're on the front lines with that and ahead of the curve, then we can keep it from going too far.
Yeah.
Where because I do think that's a possibility.
Yeah.
Now, maybe our society's too soft, and maybe that
Mhm.
won't happen. I don't know, but I don't think that's the case. I do think it could go too far where
Mhm.
kids get left behind, and that puts us back in maybe it's I don't know. I
It's
mean,
a tough question.
the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, I
Yeah.
don't know. Like, we're like, "Oh, you broke your leg, you're fine, get up and go play."
Right. And then and then that's why like guys like you and I, we were probably on that other side of like pushing through too much, right? So that's where I
Yeah,
kind of ask, I think it's a balance. And I
yeah,
think,
I agree.
like you're saying, kids, it's not that the kid is going to get quote unquote left behind. It's more like, like the Albert Einstein quote, right? Is everyone has their own genius. If you ask a fish to climb a tree, then it's going to look stupid, right?
Mhm,
So I think
yeah.
it's like, I think the answer is somewhere in the middle, 100%.
And I think it's gonna be everybody's gonna be a little bit different, right?
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
I think we have to get them out of their current mindset because
I
whatever
agree.
mindset they
100%.
have right now, it's only amplified via algorithms and Instagram and TikTok.
Yeah.
And so they don't know anything outside of the algorithm that they are being fed consistently.
100%.
So a
Yeah.
great resource that I like to put out is sometimes I'll get on a kid, I'll be like, look, you're gonna go read Relentless by Tim Grover, and you're
Yeah.
gonna read it in a
Good.
month.
Yeah.
And if it's not done, then I'm tearing up your contract. And I'm sorry, we're not welcome in ELP. It's just not
Mhm.
the right fit.
Yeah.
And I mean that in a very loving way. And I think they see it that way. But
Yeah.
like reading something like Relentless shows them what a winner's mentality might look like and how
Mhm.
there's different levels of it. Not everybody's going to be Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant. It's
Of
just
course. Yeah.
they're unique individuals, but you could still perform and execute at a very high level
Yeah.
and maybe not have all the same qualities.
Yeah. Right.
It's not black and white. There's gray when it comes to
100%. Yeah.
it sounds ironic, but it's like there's almost gray when it comes to winning just a little bit,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. And I think that's where people like they can't adopt like a certain philosophy of like like if we just took like a small clip of something you or I just said, it'd be like, oh my God, he's so extreme this
Right.
way. Like winning's everything. Like sacrifice the kid to win, like it's that
Mhm.
toxic sports culture, right? Versus
Sure.
like, or like the other side, the 20th place trophy, right? Where none of it
Mhm.
matters. So there's like a balancing act. And, getting back to that balancing act of like, you know, you getting injured so much and possibly I can't speak that you were exposed to that. I know it sounded like you had maybe it was a kind of a freak thing with your spine. I
I had plenty
personally
of other injuries as well. Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
bad ones. Yeah.
right. And it was, maybe it was from pushing too much and maybe not training in the smartest way. Kind of get into some of those modalities that you're using, like we talked about RPR, GOTA, some of the neuro side of things, some of the
Mhm.
ones that you're using, you like to use, how you're implementing that with your clients and your athletes.
Okay. Okay. So I guess, do you want more of the training side of it, or do you want more of the wellness side of stuff, or both?
Well, since we were on the topic of athletes, let's go more in the training side, and then we can
Okay.
shift more to the wellness side.
All right. So when it comes to the athletes, um, I will use principles to kind of establish a baseline. I'll use FRC, FRA principles with them from a joint side of stuff. Admittedly, I don't do it as much as I used to, but I
Mhm.
still do, especially with my baseball guys. I definitely spend a little bit more time, looking at their shoulders. I think if you haven't gone through FRC and FRA courses, I do think they're great resources. I think Dr. Spino is way ahead of his time with stuff. I think it's good. It's a lot of information, though, just a heads up. It's a lot of info, but we definitely utilize a lot of those concepts. And then, yeah, GOTA has become a big part of what we do here. And I know a lot of people on the internet now, they know me for GOTA,
Mhm.
particularly with a lot of the work that I've done with Brent Rooker of the A's. And yes, GOTA has become a big part of what we do. I do believe in it. I do think it's a system just like anything else. I do think there are flaws in it, but I think
Mhm.
every system has that. And I think if there's a coach that says their system's perfect, then you probably need to find a different coach. Um, but GOTA is a big part of what we do. Yeah. And I mean, I'll be happy to dig into that a little bit
Yeah.
more. You know,
Yeah, I think that's a good idea because you can tell you definitely you can sense that there's a lot of passion around that
yeah,
system for you.
there is. There
So
is.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Go into it a little bit. Maybe talk about the global laws a little bit. I've learned a little bit
Sure.
myself. So
Yeah,
do
absolutely.
your thing.
And so I know GOTA can edge people the wrong way a lot. And I understand that. Don't get me wrong. I've heard stories from people I'm very close with. I know they can be pretty edgy on social media, and so I would encourage you maybe take into consideration that the stuff is still good.
Mhm.
But with that, I came into GOTA thinking I had a lot of the answers to what we were doing and understanding some of these key elements that would separate athletes, but even people as well, like from the wellness side, like, okay, why was this person's back getting better but this person's back wasn't? And I thought I had those answers, or
Mhm.
general answers, right? Well, with an athletes it was the same thing. And so there was a point in time, probably, I don't know, probably 6 years ago or so. Yeah, I guess probably about 6 years. Had a group, had a bunch of pitchers around the area. If people aren't familiar with where I live in the Memphis area, we're just north of Mississippi. So like you can literally drive 10 minutes down the road near Mississippi. This whole mid-south area has pumped out some of the best baseball players in the league. I mean, you got Austin Riley from the area, you got Brent Rooker from the area. There's a Silver Slugger, two MLB All-Stars, and a World Series winner just within 20
Wow.
miles of each other.
Yeah.
And there's a lot more. I mean, a lot of SEC guys. So baseball is
Mhm.
a big sport around here. So I say that because I had a group of pitchers, and I had two guys in particular, both righties. Both of them worked their tail off. Both of them were on very similar programs, because I do believe in training the athlete. I think one of my favorite quotes from Dan was like, when you tell me, if you show me somebody whose hamstring ties up in their ear, then I'm willing to relearn what I know. And I like to
Yeah,
read and
yeah,
learn.
fair.
So, good
Mhm.
luck. So I do believe in an athletic based approach. I do think there's some specificity with stuff. Yes. But sport specific training, I don't believe in. So
Mhm.
I'll circle back and say here, these guys were training in a very similar manner. Well, one of the guys ended up touching 95 that summer, 96 that summer. And then by
Wow.
spring, we were at 99 and 100 in high school. And it was Brady Tigert. I don't mind throwing his
Yeah.
name out there. He doesn't
Mhm.
mind either. Brady played for Arkansas. I think he won SEC Freshman of the Year. And then he ended up becoming, I think, their Saturday guy, and I think he's with the Red Sox now. And so it was Brady that made me take a step back and say, how did we do that? Like, what did we do? We didn't follow Dr. Heenan's 90-mile-an-hour formula. I'm not saying that's bad. Like, I'm not saying that at all. But we didn't follow it. I was like, what? Why was Brady able to do this, but these other kids couldn't? Because, I mean, they worked almost just as hard.
Mhm.
And that's when it kind of clicked with me. There were things that I saw with him that I didn't see with the other guys. It's like Brady was one of those kids. He naturally could do things.
Mhm.
And like, I feel like we've always kind of, as coaches, we love that. It's like,
Right.
great, we got to get that, just naturally do it.
Makes you
Great.
look good too, right?
Right. Oh, yeah. It makes
Yeah.
us look great. Oh, yeah. I was a rock star, man. you know, and I think that is initially where that seed was planted with Goda. And then a good friend of mine, another resource that I relied on heavily, Ryan Paul. I owe Ryan a ton. Ryan has been like a brother to me. I mean, just like Dr. J, he's been there for me every step of the way. He kind of pushed me into the Goda a little bit and helped me understand it. And then that's when the light bulb went off. I watched Brady pitch and I saw it. I was like, holy crap, I get it.
Mhm.
He moved fluidly. So that's when I started pursuing the Goda stuff and said, I've got to know more about this. And once I learned the Goda principles, it became a big part of what we do. Now, the Goda principles and how that works. Goda is a human movement system. In sports, we always want like forward locomotion, basically. We need to be able to move and we need to be able to move fluently.
Mhm.
But why are some guys injured and some guys aren't injured? Why can guys like Tom Brady have the type of career that he could have, but Dak Prescott's constantly hurt? What is that why? That's where I felt Goda came into play. Is because when you see the patterns, it makes sense. Now, I'm a believer that some of the Goda patterns are variations to it.
Mhm.
This is my opinion. Gary and Ricky may think a little bit differently. It's their system. So,
Mhm.
these are just my opinions. But the global laws are the premise behind it. And we talk about like feet straight. Straight feet allow for proper column building. And column is basically the balance of left and right side of the body. We talk about inside ankle bone high behavior, which I'll dig into.
Mhm.
We talk about learning how to set an energy wave or set the bow, the go to bow. You hear people talk about the go to bow. The bow is kind of where I feel like there's some deviation, but it's how we absorb energy essentially.
Mhm.
Then you have like the corner, which is a release phase. So how do we release and how do we corner energy? And then other concepts like spinal fluidity, like the spine has to move fluidly. A lot of that started with David Weck, right? Like
Yeah,
if you
right.
follow any of Weck's stuff, and I kind of got into that whole coiling thing before Goda. And so I was already kind of there a little bit.
Mhm.
And so those principles have become a big part of our structure at ELP. Most athletes will go through in their evaluation, they will go through a GOTA assessment. We'll break all this down for them. And some people don't like the truth. They are here because they think that they just need to bench press, squat, power clean, deadlift, that's it. And they don't like it. And that's okay. We're not the right facility for you.
Mhm.
It's okay. No hard feelings. But here's what I see, and it's not corrective exercise. We're not going to sit here with bands and do clamshells all day or whatever. This is how you become a better athlete. Like if you want to perform like the best, you might want to move like them.
Yeah.
That's really what I believe. And then you layer in the performances on top of it. Because it does no good to have a great 40-yard dash if every time you run, you pull your dang hamstring. That's what's going to happen.
Mhm.
GOTA, for me, answers those questions. But GOTA also fills in with all these other things. So like you talk about RPR, we talk about like hip extension patterns, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
So I was always a why guy. Like why? Like why is somebody's hip extension messed up?
Right.
And how do
Yeah.
I fix it? Like, sure, we can activate the spots and I can teach them how to activate, but why does it keep going out?
Yeah, and that's a
What?
common question I would get from clients is like, why do they go out in the first place?
Right. And same thing with neuro target. People would ask me, well, how do I stay in balance? Well, there's a lot of
Mhm.
different variables there, more
Right,
so
of
than
course.
movement, but
Yeah, yeah.
that's a whole other podcast. So go to help answer a lot of those questions for me. And yeah, I mean that you can tell I'm passionate about it. I like it. It is
Mhm.
not everything that we do though.
Yeah, of course.
But I do believe it's foundation. So I have kind of rebuilt my pyramid in my mind. Like,
Mhm.
think when you think about a performance pyramid or even
Yeah.
just health and longevity, movement
Mhm.
is kind of that bottom line for me at this
Yeah.
point.
Right.
It used to be GPP, but it's
Mhm.
almost kind of the same thing if you think about it.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, what is most GPP? It's just movement stuff.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of time you're just doing a random thing, sandbag carry, sled pushes, you know, whatever.
Yeah. Right.
Well, might as well
Probably
do
just
it
like conditioning, right?
right.
When I
Might
hear
as well do it
GPP,
with
I
like
think of
straight feet.
conditioning
Like,
too. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
you know,
And I
yeah,
really think it probably wouldn't tweak people's program a whole lot. I mean, it's just doing some of those same movements, like you said, straight feet, just adhere to those rules, those
yeah.
laws, right?
Yeah, and so like with us, like you know, we dive in pretty heavy with it in the beginning,
Mm.
with most of our athletes, and eventually it gets to the point where you know it becomes a natural daily part of their life. They
Mhm.
implement a lot of this on their own because
Good. Good.
I can't offset what other coaches do. I mean, in our
Mhm.
industry, they're going to have high school coaches that are going to believe in power cleans, for example.
Mhm.
I if you like Olympic lifts, cool. I don't do them for a number of different reasons.
Mhm.
But I will say that a power clean, for example, causes inside ankle bone low behavior. That's one of the things that it would do. It teaches us to move in reverse. So it's like they're doing a lot of power cleans at school. I can't combat that. The best way I can do it is just help try to get their body back in a position where it wants to be back chain dominant and wants to move, you know, forward locomotion fluidly with spinal fluidity. So
Right.
we'll hit it pretty hard first couple weeks that we're doing stuff, and then we kind of layer in everything else as we go.
Yeah, and that was one of the big things I learned from Dan was like there's pros and cons to everything, right?
Absolutely.
And when you do these heavy lifts, right, you just know that all right, dulls the nervous system, right? It creates some of that inside ankle bone low behavior, right? They're creating like structural compensations as well.
Mhm.
So like is that how you're viewing your program is like, okay, I know there's limitations here. This is what I'm implementing over here to kind of offset that. Are you, it's kind of like a game of chess almost.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And so for 3 easy payments of $9.99, I'll answer that question
Yeah,
for you.
right, right.
Right.
Join my membership.
Right. Click the link in the bio for it, guys.
Mhm.
Yes, I do believe there's give and take with it for sure.
Yeah.
You know, when it comes to my general athletic programming, Kelly Baggett was a huge influence to me. I
Mhm.
think he had great stuff. And obviously, like a lot of coaches, I think conjugate, like, you know, basic conjugate
Mhm.
programming as far as
Mhm.
strength wise and go. So yeah, there is a give and take with it. We are
Yep.
still going to deadlift. Like,
Yep.
I still believe in getting strong under a bar, but it's only
Mhm.
going to be about 30% of what we do.
Yeah.
And you better believe it. Yeah, if we're gonna knock out, you know, a couple sets of sumos, you're definitely going to be doing some recode stuff afterwards or beforehand to kind
Right.
of re-ingrain the good positive patterns. Yeah, absolutely. Give and take with it for sure.
So if you could break down like that, your athletic pyramid right now, like how you're implementing these things, you said that bottom base is movement. And then as you're moving up,
Hmm. Yeah.
what have you seen? Like, what are the other parts of that pyramid besides the movement piece?
So, I mean, the basics. I mean, movement's going to be at the bottom, right? And with the movement, I kind of put the go to work, which I've always felt like when you do a lot of heavy recode work, it does become a lot of GPP stuff
Mhm.
in my mind. So, you know, you've got that at the bottom, and then the basics. You go strength, you know, power, speed, skill. In
Yep.
my mind, you know, I think you have to have again, people. We all have our own opinions, but I don't think strength is ever a weakness.
No.
I just, especially with high school kids,
Mhm.
I just don't think strength's a weakness. And
Mhm.
so I do believe in getting strong, but it's not at the expense of athletic qualities.
Right.
And so, yeah, so my programs will typically involve a little bit, we will vary a little bit just kind of based on where we are. You know, we might do some go to work and then we might hit some, you know, hit some speed. We might do some acceleration or max
Mhm.
velocity, just kind of
Yeah.
depending on where we are in a program. Right.
Yeah.
And then we might do some strength work later in the week.
Okay.
You know, or we might kind of be a little bit more in, you know, a little bit more in kind of a power phase. Like I think
Mhm.
a lot of kids, there's so much information out there. I'm noticing that the schools that the good coaches, they're getting good programming. There's
Mhm.
a lot of schools that have atrocious programming still. But I think a lot of the good schools, the kids are getting strength work in. So
Mhm.
we'll do a lot of power work. You know, I do a
Are
lot
you
of
getting a lot of combos of kids like and I see that with the kids too. They're doing like they're probably training, they might be training someone else and they may be doing 1 to 2 sports at the same time? Are you getting a lot of that too?
I'm getting a ton of that, and that's actually a very interesting statement that you bring up because I was having this conversation with somebody else the other day that again, we talked about the pendulum swinging.
Mhm.
10 years ago, we had a problem with sports specialization.
Yeah.
Today, we have a problem with kids playing every single sport and playing travel ball for every single sport and never having the opportunity to get in the weight room and get better.
Yeah.
The pendulum has swung.
Mhm.
Hopefully, it balances itself out. Like, I'm all for kids playing multiple sports, but when you play football, basketball, baseball, and you're playing travel baseball, and you got AAU going on as well. Like, you have to have time to actually spend working on your body.
Yeah, what kinda, like, happened to seasons, you know?
Right. It doesn't exist anymore. Again, the pendulum swings. And so it swung hard back the other way. So it's, I think probably in the next 5 to 10 years, we'll see that pendulum balance back out again.
Yeah.
Maybe we go back to the sports specialization model. I don't know, but it's got
Yeah,
to
I
slow down a
worry
little bit.
yeah, I worry with burnout, especially because,
Huge,
you know,
huge.
I noticed I felt very balanced in high school because it was like, all right, I had football, then I had wrestling, then I had track. Just about the end of the season of football, like, okay, I'm starting to look forward to wrestling. I'm getting a little burned out with football. Then
Yeah.
same thing with wrestling to track. And then I'd have the summer off and be just so excited for football. But once I got to college, it was like football year round. Like even in the spring, in the winter, you're lifting for football. All you're
Yeah.
thinking about is football.
Yep.
Everything's centered around that. And but that didn't start till college. That was my freshman year. I was 18, 19 at the time. Kids are probably starting to go through that at what, like 9, 10
14.
years
Yeah. I
old?
mean,
Yeah,
heavy duty
yeah,
around 12, 13, 14. But yeah,
yeah,
they're already experiencing it around 8 or 9. You're right.
right, exactly.
Yep. And I mean, I've seen multiple kids just quit, be completely burned out, and so that
Mhm.
actually goes back to our earlier conversation. Like, that's something we have to help them with as well.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I had 2 kids come in yesterday, and they were just, I could tell they were done. Their coach, I mean, my God, it's the start of the season, and the coach's workout was 250 squats, 250 lunges, 250 like
Jeez.
burpees,
Yeah,
like 150 split squat jumps, 200 push-ups, and then they ran a mile.
that's just one
That was
workout.
their workout
Oh my god.
as the season starts.
Yeah,
So they came in and they're just like, we're shot.
because 'cause we're out of shape, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
It's like, all right, well, we're not training today. We're just gonna do a reset and you're gonna get out of here. So see you. Like, yeah, reset on the newbie. Or
Yeah, and
go on.
that's where my mind went because I think I just saw you had a recent post, you had somebody doing the master reset.
Yep.
Talk about maybe your experience with, um, the newbie implementing some of those things, probably the recovery side, because is we're talking about burnout a little bit with athletes. How are you implementing like things like the newbie recovery modalities, stuff like that?
So for me, the newbie's a big part of it. I don't have a lot of other recovery modalities here. I really don't even have any. I would love to have some of the other stuff though, for sure. I just don't have
Mhm.
space.
Mhm.
But I utilize the newbie a lot. Absolutely. So big support of the newbie. If you've heard me talk, I speak very highly of it, and Garrett
Mhm.
and the whole New Fit company. I think they do a great job.
Yeah.
They do things the right way, and that's
Mhm.
very important to me because there are a lot of other people out there that have not done things the right way. New Fit
Mhm.
does. So with that, yeah, I use the master reset a lot with kids. I think it really helps. Pending their health history checks out and all that good stuff. Of course,
Yeah.
we don't ever blur those lines ever. It definitely helps stimulate the vagus nerve. It helps them put them
There
back in
we
a
go.
state of
Yep.
recovery,
Mhm.
which helps them just recover that much quicker and be ready to perform.
Yeah.
Um, I'll use a few other techniques. I do utilize neurotarget when it comes to that as well, because if the brain is stuck in a sympathetic state, then it will naturally cause muscular inhibition, I
Mhm.
believe. So we utilize neurotarget for that as well.
Yeah.
Implementation of the newbie as far as outside of recovery, we definitely use it on the wellness side of stuff, but I'll also use it for performance enhancement as well.
Yeah.
We will train with it if that athlete has kind of earned the right to do that, because it does take a lot of time and stuff,
Mhm.
just especially when you have a lot of kids. Um, that's kind of a privilege for kids out here.
Mhm.
But I also believe that when we go circle back to some of the things we were talking about earlier and just some of the subconscious states that we have to deal with, and these fear mechanisms and fear-based processes that compensations develop. And
Oh,
we live in a world where the body is always deteriorating. We are 1 minute closer to dying than we were a minute ago, and one day closer. We never know when that day is coming. So with that, as the body is always breaking down, regardless of what your Aura ring might tell you or your Whoop strap, which I have a lot of kids that wear those. I think they're great tools.
Yeah.
But with that come compensations. And I believe that performance is also related to the elimination of compensations, which, if you know the Evo sports system, that's a big part of it as well. So I think
Mhm.
the newbie can play a big role in that, especially from the skill side.
Yeah.
We can help kids eliminate compensation patterns, and that allows them to run faster or throw harder or whatever the case may be. So I use it really in regards to all those different components.
And so let's dive in just to, a brief description for people, because a lot of people are going to hear that newbie, new fit
Sure.
kind of methodology. They're not going to understand what that is. And then probably just talk about parasympathetic, sympathetic nervous system. People probably heard them. They're like a little bit of buzzwords at time in the health and wellness field,
Yeah.
but kind of dig in to what those things are.
Yeah, sure. So, all right. So, New Fit, CEO's Garrett Salpeter. Garrett and I go way, way, way back. Great dude. The newbie is their electric muscle stimulation device. It is a pulse DC current. So,
Mhm.
essentially, you have kind of two major currents. You have a AC based current and a pulse DC current. The newbie is a pulse DC current, and that DC current is very harmonious with our body. The body does not necessarily perceive that as a threat. It works harmoniously. Again, I just said that harmoniously with the body. So that allows us to actually help muscles elongate.
Mhm.
And that's an important part of the process. And that's something that really differentiates the newbie from other electric muscle stimulation modalities, that is, they cause us contraction. Well, the newbie, now you can get contraction with the newbie for sure, but that's kind of a different conversation. But essentially, it causes a harmonious lengthening of the tissue. So that can help us recover faster because we can lengthen stuff back out. But
Mhm.
it can also help us stimulate those the parasympathetic nervous system. And so you've heard those buzzwords, sympathetic and parasympathetic. Very simply, sympathetic is fight or flight, it is stress. Parasympathetic is rest, digest. Think sympathetic as something scares you and you jump and you're triggered. Okay.
Mhm.
Saber-tooth tiger jumps out of the bushes, tries to kill you. It's the same thing. It's a primitive type of response.
Right.
Parasympathetic is that rest, digest, guys. It's that chilled, relaxed. Okay. It's what you're doing when you're just sitting there, whatever it is that you guys do, watching Netflix, vibing out, whatever it is that we do these days. I don't
Mhm.
know. So, there's a time and place for both. You need to be able to ramp up into the sympathetic mode at times because that helps with adrenaline and all that other stuff, helps with muscle contraction. But
Right.
the problem is that in society, we're stuck there.
Mhm.
Whether you realize it or not, probably everybody is stuck in a sympathetic state. And again, that goes back to the fear because we're locked in sympathetics. And if you don't believe me that you're locked in a sympathetic state, you can just look at how much you sweat. Maybe that might tell you one thing. What your pulse is, your pupils dilate, all these different things. The light that you're under can put you in a sympathetic state. The food you eat, okay?
Mhm.
So, like kids, athletes, if you're listening to this, if you're under blue light all day and you've been stuck on your iPad all day, you're probably locked into a sympathetic state. I'd
Yeah.
be willing to bet.
Mhm.
Well, the newbie can help pull us out of that. And there are other modalities that do as well, whether you like cold plunges, they stimulate the sympathetic, like the vagus nerve, which I still don't understand how it does that because that puts me in a sympathetic state just thinking about jumping in an ice
It's
bath.
when you get out. It's when you get out. You're so
I think I would
relieved,
still
right?
be like traumatized.
Yeah, right.
But that's essentially in a nutshell what the newbie can do. And it's a very fascinating piece of equipment that can really serve a lot of purposes and be very helpful. And so we'll use it for that. We'll use it for recovery, and help tissues get lengthened back out and
Yeah.
get you out of that locked in sympathetic state.
Yeah, the electrical modalities are just such a game changer. I haven't got to
Yeah.
experience New Fit or ARP or anything like that.
Mhm.
I got to experience
And
with
ARP
Dr.
is a good
Tennant.
product as well. I'll
Yeah,
just go
yeah,
on the record
right,
as saying that as well.
right. Um, I got to experience Dr. Tennant's, the biomodulator, which
Yeah.
is very similar ballpark of things. He's probably more focused health and wellness and disease, sickness, stuff like
Mhm.
that.
Great
But
stuff.
um,
Great stuff.
how have you seen this? Probably a good shift to like the health and wellness and how you're working with people with chronic pain, and I'm assuming you're using that new fit a lot and trying to shift people out of that sympathetic state to parasympathetic. So maybe talk about the health and wellness side of what you're doing with people.
Yeah, sure. So I tell everybody when they come in, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a PT. And I think that's a very important distinction to make. I'm not here to treat or diagnose. We're kind of the why people. Your diagnosis is important. I need to know what your doctor or your PT told you. Like, that's not my job, and I don't cross those boundaries. And I'm very adamant about that. And I think anybody that kind of does what they do, you need to be adamant about that as well. Don't cross those lines. So I tell people we're kind of the why people. So why does an injury occur? Why do we have pain? Well, I believe in our teachings that injury is the result of a muscle's inability to absorb force. Muscles have two main jobs. One is they're designed to strengthen. This is what we are very accustomed to. We are very accustomed to the strength and the physical property of the muscle, right? Well, the other side of it is the muscle is there to absorb force. The muscle works like a shock absorber on a car. It's the same concept. But the ability for the muscle to absorb force is different than its strength component. The ability of the muscle to absorb force is due to like this strength reflex. It is how fast the brain gets the signal to the muscle. Can the muscle turn on at the moment it needs to absorb force? And if it can't, then that force is going to travel somewhere else. That force could go to another muscle, causing something to be tight. It could go to a tendon. It could go to a ligament. It could go to a disc in your back, your neck. It could go to a bursa. And that's where you start to get these itises and injuries and compensations. And so if you have whatever the case may be, you have bursitis, well, that's the end result. Why did that happen? Well, that happened because there are muscles that are not absorbing force. And why are they not absorbing force? Well, it's not a strength issue, although strength definitely plays a role and it helps. There is a problem with how the brain tells that muscle to turn on. And I always use the light bulb analogy with people. If you have a 40-watt bulb in your lamp and you put an 80-watt bulb in there, that would be the same thing as strengthening the muscles. But the light bulb is never going to work if you don't flip the light switch on. That's what we focus on.
I like that.
We focus on getting the light switches turned on. And so subsequently, we will utilize different muscle testing, and we will identify what muscles are inhibited, which ones are shut down, turned off, whatever you want to say, which ones lack response. And we'll identify where that signal is shut down. That signal could be shut down for all kinds of different reasons. But in essence, we will flip the body back into a parasympathetic state so it can want to heal. Then we will stimulate the areas that need to be stimulated or flip those light switches back on, which turn the muscles back on to take the force out of that bursa. So now that bursa can start to heal. And I like to tell people, like, you could have like a 50-50 shot. It obviously varies for everybody, but I try to keep it simple. Like, sometimes the body can take care of it. But other times there's so much inflammation or the area is so damaged that you've got to bring in another modality to help. That may be PT, it may be massage, it may be whatever the case may be. It may be dry needling, whatever it is you like to do. That's all fine. For us, we like to utilize the newbie. The newbie helps out a lot. But our job is to identify that why and help people get their body back in a position where it can heal. And it can heal with as limited amount of compensations as possible.
And in your experience, what have you found, like those whys? Why do those muscles get switched off? Why do people get, I know you mentioned some of the food, blue light, these things get that sympathetic switch on. What are some other things that you're experiencing, or why do you think a muscle gets out of balance?
Well, I think when you look at the hierarchy of needs of our body, the muscles are just kind of like not even there. Like, we need the muscles to support us, but at the end of the day, the body's main job is survival. And so you can be a vegetable in a hospital bed and not a muscle doesn't work, but as long as your heart's beating and your organs are working, your brain is surviving. So that's kind of the beauty of muscle testing, is we can tell that if a muscle regularly tests out, like it's just not working, and we see that regularly, it's a clear indication the body's diverting energy somewhere else.
Yeah.
And now there can be all kinds of reasons why. Maybe there's a nutritional deficiency there. Maybe there's a gut issue there. Maybe there's a different stress response. It usually goes into some type of stress response. But that stress blankets all kinds of stuff. Where it does blanket the nutrition, you could have a lymph blockage. I've really gotten into the lymph side of stuff. I think the lymph is fascinating, an area that I think is widely overlooked.
Yeah.
and for people that don't really know what your lymph system is, like your lymph system is there to get waste out of your body.
You
It's like,
getting Dr. Perry on your show soon?
oh yeah, man, I would
Yeah,
love to have
good,
Dr. Perry.
good.
I've
He's on my
really
list
dug into stuff.
too. Yeah, he's
My
good.
my PT and I, my advising one of my advising healthcare providers, we've really gone down that rabbit hole.
Yeah,
She's a little further ahead than
really
I
good.
am with it, but
Mhm.
I found it to have profound impacts on people, and
Yeah.
myself included.
Mhm.
But that all kind of goes back to like, okay, why is the muscle shut down? I also believe that there can be poor movement patterns as well,
Mhm.
which is where I do feel like GOTA plays a role in it as well. I think if the body is moving in an inefficient manner, then that can interfere with the way the joints tell the brain what's going on. So guys, understand, like when you step, like your ankle receptors. So if you don't know what a receptor is, like just touch your shoulder and there's a receptor that sends that to your brain, right? Well, those joint receptors, like your ankle, send information to your brain and tells it like where you are in space. And when we have inefficient patterns, the nervous system recognizes that and it's going to lock things down. And it might lock things down at the expense of shutting a muscle down. And so I have found that that movement plays a role in it as well as these threats. What are these threats? What are these stressors? And that is the golden question. Like, we could spend a whole other hour and a half talking about
Mhm.
that.
Yeah,
Like
100%.
why does a muscle shut down?
Mhm.
The list could go on and on and on.
Right, it's such a simple question, but it's
Such a simple question with a
multifactorial.
very, very long answer. And I don't really know. Everybody's different.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's different. It could be somebody had a bad day at work
Mhm.
and it shut something off.
Yeah.
It could be, somebody's got some type of orthopedic pathology and it shuts something down. I mean,
Right.
who knows? There could be all kinds of stuff.
And are you kind of, addressing some of these things like nutrition, gut, stress? Are you given I know it sounds like you like to give homework to people. I always want to give people some takeaways, even if they're like real simple. Just be mindful of this, pay attention, put some energy here so we can kind of prevent this from happening in the future. You mentioned nutrition, gut, stress, blue light. Are you kind of addressing that with your clients and your athletes?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. That's actually how our podcast got started.
Right, right.
Believe it or not, I was talking about blue light with kids. Like, man,
Yeah,
you got to start a podcast though. Okay. Um,
yeah.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely, we are. And we just kind of start simple based on where people are and
Yeah.
um,
What are
what their
the
beliefs
like
are.
3 common ones that you're typically telling people? Like the ones that you're like, "Oh my god, this again," you know?
uh, hmm. It's a good question. I need to think on that for a second. Kind of the three common ones that I see with people.
Mhm.
I would definitely say screen time and the light's a big one.
Yeah, screen time, lights, yep.
That's really, really hard to talk about with people, though.
Mhm. It is. Society's
Um,
so dependent on it now.
it is. It is. I think that. I think food is a big one as well.
Mhm. Yeah.
I think the nutritional side is very, very important. I tend to rely on my wife more for that side of
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
But I think we have an abundant amount of food in our country, but we have probably the worst food
Mhm.
quality in the world.
Yeah.
Um, Really excited to see what RFK is going to do with that. Hopefully, we get some changes.
Yeah.
But like guys, like goldfishes, they're not real food. Like,
Right.
don't get me wrong, I got my vices. I like to eat goldfish
Of
too,
course.
but like
Yep.
it's secondary to my regular food. Like I can think of an athlete right now. Like she eat her parents are okay with it. She just eats goldfish. That's it. She has like a smoothie and breakfast, and then just eats goldfish all day.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Like, GOAT ain't gonna fix that, man.
yeah, it's like
You
go to
know?
ain't gonna
If
fix you.
it's
No, like sorry.
Yeah.
Neither is Neuro Target. Like we just eating goldfish.
No.
So
No.
I think those two are big. And I don't know if I could say that there's another one, like one in particular. I
Mhm.
think it just goes back to honestly kind of the theme that I don't even know if we meant to get into today, but this theme of just being locked in this stress response,
Mhm.
this
Mhm.
stressed state.
Yeah.
Some of it through our own doing, some of it through, not the doing of ourselves, but
Yeah.
because
Right.
of society and things like that. I think that's a big part of it. People are they're always, it's just fear mongering constantly with stuff. And people don't realize what that's doing to you,
Yeah.
you know? every time you watch the news, whether you're Republican, Democrat, black, white, it doesn't matter. Like
Mm,
that stuff, or just scrolling, and what the scrolling is doing to the dopamine in your nervous
right.
system. Like, no wonder you're not happy.
Right.
No
Exactly.
wonder you're not happy, because you've used up all your dopamine.
Depleted.
So
Yeah.
there you go. There's your chemical imbalance, which very well could shut a muscle down.
And, with, I know you said you kind of shifted towards your wife, but with nutrition, are you kind of just trying to reinforce general advice for your athletes? Hey, need to eat more protein. We're in here moving, we're breaking things down, got to build it back up. Are you giving, general advice that you're trying to reinforce with your
Oh yeah,
clients?
absolutely, absolutely. And anybody that's in this field, I mean, it's kind of the basics, the basic stuff: the protein, fat, carbs.
Hmm.
We're still preaching, stop worrying about your calories. I mean, get your macros in first. And so, just first step with me, a lot of times with kids, or I mean, heck, even adults, is like, let's just hit protein first. Let's start
Yeah.
there,
Hmm.
one step at a time. All right, let's keep it super simple. Let's just get adequate protein in. You can do that for a month. Cool. Then we'll dig into the carbs.
Yep.
We don't need to overwhelm it. So pretty basic stuff there. Now we can go much deeper.
Hmm.
My wife can do testing like bioterrain analysis,
Hmm.
see kind of what's going on internally. Is your liver, kind of, I don't want to say clogged, but is your liver sluggish? Things like that. A lot of TC Hale's work, for anybody that, is
Hmm.
interested in that stuff. TC Hale's a great guy. He's a trip, but his information is phenomenal. That's definitely the path that we go.
Okay. Good.
We can do, we do, there's basic things that you can do. I mean, we'll do some of the basic herbal stuff, but
Mhm.
not like we used to.
Yeah.
By any means. We've just found more efficient ways to do stuff.
Okay. Good. Good. And then the blue light. Are you given any tools? I know you're pretty versed with Jack Cruz, so you're using the blue blockers, anything like that. I know that's
No, bro,
something.
I am not versed at all. Like,
Well,
you
yeah.
listen to the
How can
podcast,
you
he
can
comes
only
on the
be
show and
so
I don't talk.
versed? Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's fair.
Oh man.
You think you're smart until you hear that guy
Oh
talk.
my
That's what
gosh.
I'll say.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah, so like the tools that we give people are some of the basic stuff with it. So like just basic settings on your phone and computer.
Hmm.
Start there, right?
Yep.
Basic morning and evening sunlight. That's important.
Hmm.
Getting out from at least trying to take a break throughout the day, to get out and and get some sun.
Hmm.
But we're very blessed and fortunate, and I'd like to have him come back on again because he came back on our show way back in the beginning. But we work with an optometrist that is extremely forward thinking.
Hmm.
Great guy, does a lot of concussion work as well.
Mm.
But like one of the things he's talked about is, having the proper contacts or glasses that allow the light in. Like
Oh,
I never really realized that, but like
yeah.
contacts and glasses in your windows in your house actually block a lot of the beneficial light, that your body needs to absorb. And so I
And
might
who
get them
is this
hooked up with them.
optometrist? If
Yeah,
anybody knows.
Dr. Brandon Wally,
Oh, did you have him on the
Wally.
show? Right.
Yeah, if you want, you'd have
Okay.
to go way back at the beginning of our feed.
Yeah, I remember that name.
Yeah, Dr. Brandon's an awesome guy, very forward thinking. He's not just glasses and contacts; he goes a lot deeper than that. So, those are kind of the three things that I'll start people with. Like, let's just
Yeah.
start here, three or four, and then kind of build from there.
Yeah.
Like if you want to go buy the big, $600, $2,000, red light, whatever thing you hook up on your wall, cool.
Mhm.
I don't have one. I'd like one though.
Yeah. Sunlight's a little better, just saying.
Oh, no doubt, no doubt
Yeah. You
whatsoever.
you can't replicate it. I know China's trying to, but good luck.
No doubt that you can't replicate the real
Yeah.
sun. I
No,
don't think God made a mistake.
no.
I think the sun is there for a reason. Yep.
All right, brother. This was absolutely great.
Yeah,
Definitely
man.
went in a different direction than I thought, but I think there's so many good things here for people to take in. Um, let's just have you plug your socials, plug your podcast. I'll speak on it. I've probably listened about 80% of the episodes. So
I appreciate it, man.
just know
Thanks.
people are listening. I know sometimes it's you start doing things and you're like, is anybody even watching this? Is anybody listen to? At least you got one avid fan over here.
Well, I appreciate it, man. Yeah, it's grown into it's kind of taken on a, a nature in and of itself, and we're super blessed to be able to do that. It has grown into something a lot larger than I thought it would ever. I never planned on it, and I'm super blessed to have met people like you and
Mhm.
others, honestly around the world through it, and we look to keep building on it. So appreciate everybody. Yeah, this has been a lot of fun, man. I appreciate the opportunity to come in and chat with you. It's good to connect with you. As far as where you guys can find me, I'm most active on Instagram. Farmer John underscore ELP. Farmer John underscore ELP. I'm
Mhm.
a country boy that lives in the country, so that's where the farmer comes from.
Yep.
The podcast is the Starting Block Podcast. It's a cartoon picture of my former Rottweiler, rest in peace, holding a barbell. That's our logo, so you'll know you find us there. And we're on audio and video. The video
Mhm.
is under my company's page, Elite Level Performance on YouTube.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like I said, my biggest social outlet's Instagram. Feel free to connect with me
Yeah.
there. DM me. Happy to chat with you anytime.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, it's been a pleasure. It's been fun. We'll have to do it
Yeah,
again.
man. Good, definitely.
Yeah.
And also you have your gym has the Instagram as well, right?
Yeah, Elite Level Performance. We should pop right up. Just
Yep.
Elite Level Performance. Yep.
Cool, man. Just want to make sure we plug that in for you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, man.
All right, man. Thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, appreciate you.